I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC 317, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. I just got outside of UFC 317. I'm in my hotel room right now. I wanted to do this before I go to the airport and head back home. Got to do the stock report. I always try and get it out on Sunday. But biggest stock riser on this card, and I'll say this, I've done the stock report for, I don't know, a year and a bit. It's a series I do after every single UFC event. There's not a bigger stock riser since doing this series than Ilia Tapora. What a win. First round finish, big favorite, the big narrative going into the fight, the odds are off, Tapora shouldn't be this much of a favorite. Apparently he should be that much of a favorite because he went out there, he got it done. I mean, there were so many things that he did before the fight, like the whole, going to dinner and saying, I've already won and celebrating. I mean, imagine if that went the other way. That's not going to look so good. Fans would be all over him like a bunch of hyenas. Instead, he goes out there and he gets it done. This was one of those moments in MMA history. It's reminded me a lot of Conor McGregor's run when he knocked out Aldo. It had the same feel that night. And for him to go out there and finish Olivera in devastating fashion. I mean, we've seen Olivera lose before, right? We saw him lose to Arman. We saw Islam dominate him and eventually finish him. We haven't seen him get finished in the first round like that. That was an incredible performance from Ilia Tapora. That puts him up into that superstar level. He's not on McGregor's level, but he's in that level right now, that stratosphere of, they're talking about going to Spain. They're talking about this big fight with Paddy Pimblett. Like, there's so many big things ahead for Tapora, and he's undefeated. I mean, I can't think of someone whose stock has risen faster than Ilia Tapora over the last couple of years. That is a monumental win. He's now knocked out Volk, Holloway, and now Charles Olivera. We may never seen a run like that ever again. I mean, seeing three legends like that get knocked out in a span like that is just incredible. Even at the post-fight presser, there's just an aura about him that we just don't see from a lot of fighters. Ilia Tapora, biggest stock riser since I've ever done this series. I mean, there's no question about it. Ilia Tapora is getting into that superstar status, and that is so hard to achieve in a sport like MMA where it's just hard to break through, and Tapora's got that aura. He looked great. Loved the face-off. I know Dana didn't, but I certainly like the face-off with Paddy Pimblett. Set up the next fight. Look, we all know Arman should be fighting him next, but there's a marketability side of MMA. Paddy and Ilia will be a great fight. I think a lot of us are looking forward to it. So biggest stock riser there is absolutely Ilia Tapora. Second biggest stock riser, again, pretty easy one here. Got to be Alexander Pantoja. Dominant victory over Kai Kara-France. What can you say? I mean, Kai was not in this fight. We'll talk about Kai a little bit later here too. But Pantoja, I think he passed the record for DJ for Demetrius Johnson for most finishes in flyweight division history. He's certainly on his way to the title defense record, which I believe he's close to doing that. This guy's amazing, and he's getting better every fight. Like, just we saw him destroy Asakura, and then we see the same thing tonight with Kai as well. And what's cool about him is, a lot of times we're seeing champions right now, they want to move up. He's cool staying at 125. He's like, look, there's a lot of fun fights ahead. So just everything about Pantoja, he is really winning people over. Again, great performance here tonight. He gets another finish that's going to be a nice feather in his cap. And I agree with him. He should be right behind Islam and Ilia as far as like the pound for pound list, because he's right up there. Great performance there from Alexander Pantoja. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. I'm tired, guys. I've been up since, 6 a.m. It's like midnight here local time. Third biggest stock riser, another easy one here, Joshua Van. What can you say? Fight of the year with Brandon Royval. Great fight. We knew it was going to be a good fight going in, but to get like a fight of the year candidate, back and forth action, nearly finished Royval at the end. Joshua Van going to be fighting next for the title. He's 23 years old. Amazing. Another huge stock riser here. Like, I'm really amped for that fight with Pantoja. Like, I don't think we've had a flyweight fight in a while. Like, tonight's fight was good, but is this a fight like you can't miss? I think that was up for debate. I think Joshua Van and Alexander Pantoja is one of those fights you can't miss. That is, Joshua Van is just captures everyone's attention. And think about it, back-to-back pay-per-views, he gets really big wins like that. Joshua Van, huge stock riser. Shout out to him. Okay, we got a couple honorable mentions. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's a number of honorable mentions you could go, and I'm sure I can name a lot of people on this card, but let's go through some of the names here. Beneil Dariush, underdog, getting it done over Renato Moicano. He gets his first win since I think 2022. He's getting up there in age, but he's kind of right back in the mix with some of those top names in the weight class. So big win there for Benny, getting it done over Renato Moicano. Jose Delgado getting one of the best highlight reel finishes we've seen in a long time. Quick work over Haider Emil. He's a guy to watch in that division at featherweight. So really excited for what's next for him. And Gregory Rodriguez putting out Jack Hermanson. I know a lot of people talking about the stoppage, him getting that extra shot in. At the end of the day, it's the referee whose fault it is, because fighters are supposed to go until the referee steps in. So Herb Dean a little bit of a step behind here. I don't think Gregory Rodriguez is like a malicious guy or anything like that. My take was that Herb was a little bit late on that one, but he too, getting that win, bouncing back from the Jared Cannonier loss, he's going to be situated very well in the middleweight division. So got to shout out Gregory Rodriguez. And last but certainly not least, a fight that I was wrong about, Peyton Talbot, right? Really good bounce back over that loss to Raoni Barcelos, taking out Felipe Lima. I had Talbot winning 2-1 in that fight. Thought he looked great, composed, had a lot of fun in there. They talked about that on the commentary. He's right back to, I think, where he was before the Barcelos fight, in my opinion. Still need to see how he does against some better competition, but big win there for Peyton Talbot, still 26 years old. Very good promise there with Peyton Talbot getting that big win. Okay, let's get to stock droppers on this card. This is a bit of an interesting one. There's a couple different ways you could go on this one. But really what it came down for me as far as a stock dropper was Kai Kara-France. Now look, Pantoja I do think is that good, so I don't want to, talk about Kai here and not give any credit to Alexander Pantoja. I think Pantoja is just that good, but this fight was not competitive at all. I don't think Pantoja was in any sort of danger. I expected this fight to be a little bit closer than what it ended up being, and maybe it's just a case of Pantoja's that good, and maybe I'm being too hard on Kai Kara-France, but you got your teammates out there, Israel Adesanya, Carlos Ulberg, Volkanovski out here, all supporting you. And, the whole tongue wag thing at the weigh-ins, which I know is part of his culture or whatever, but that fight was not competitive at all. And I think people thought after the Asakura fight that we'd see a little bit more of a pushback here from the challenger for Alexander Pantoja, and that didn't happen here. So Kai Kara-France, to me is the bigger stock dropper than some of these other guys on this card, because it was just Pantoja kind of doing what he wanted before getting the finish. And Kai Kara-France to me, biggest stock dropper on this card, just because he was in a title fight that wasn't competitive. Now, another guy who wasn't that competitive either was Charles Olivera against Ilia Tapora. Now look, Charles at least was a big underdog here. I think Kai Kara-France and Pantoja odds were much closer here. So that's why, again, I gave the edge to Kai as far as a stock dropper. But Charles Olivera, it's not like Charles was getting his ass kicked the whole fight. I thought it was fairly competitive, leading up to the finish. And Charles got caught, but we kind of knew that was going to happen. It's the fact that Charles got finished in the first round and the optics of all this, right? Olivera loses. He's now lost, 2 of his last 3, right? Because Arman and they beat Chandler and lost to Ilia. He's getting up there in age, mid-30s. He's probably not getting a title shot again, right? I mean, maybe. You never know with timing, right? I didn't think Dustin Poirier would get a title shot against Islam. Timing worked out in that favor. I won't say never, but I think it's going to be very hard for Charles Olivera to get back to the title contention at this point, especially losing in the first round. He's going to have to take some time off. The Olivera one is more of just the optics. Again, I think a lot of people expected Poirier to go in there and finish him, but to get finished that quickly, Olivera's a huge star, one of the biggest names in the UFC. He's a little bit older. Going to be tough for him to get back to a title shot. So Charles Olivera's got to be there as well. And my third biggest stock dropper, and people may disagree with me here, it's Felipe Lima. Now look, again, I thought Lima won at least one of those rounds in that fight. A little bit of bad fight IQ there, in my opinion, with that matchup. But to me, if Lima would have won, he would have taken all the shine away from Peyton Talbot. We know Talbot's been hyped up a lot prior to the last fight against Barcelos. I just think it was a missed opportunity for Felipe Lima. If he went out there and won the fight, a lot of people would be talking about how good he is because he's only a year older than Peyton Talbot. I think this was a missed opportunity here for Felipe Lima, not being able to capitalize on the win or on the fight with Peyton Talbot. And maybe it's a case, too, of where Talbot's just that much better and, Lima was never going to win that. But I felt like Lima could have performed a bit better here. And I think, again, missed opportunity taking on an American favorite here in Peyton Talbot. So Felipe Lima is another stock dropper for me as well. Okay, a couple of honorable mentions here. We'll go with Moicano. Favored, again, had so much momentum before the Islam fight. Obviously had to take that fight on 24 hours notice. Now he's lost back-to-back fights. And if you go back a little bit further, right, the Jalen Turner fight, Turner should have won that. And then he kind of had the bad fight IQ there, and Moicano came back. I just feel like all the momentum that Moicano had last year is basically evaporated at this point. He's also not getting much younger. This was a tough loss there for Moicano. He's another guy I don't think will be fighting for a title again. Well, I mean, that was probably happening anyways with him losing to Islam, but I just think for Moicano, one of the more popular fighters, tried to hype up the fight a little bit. To kind of lose the way he did, that was a bit tough. Again, Beneil taking him out, being the underdog, Beneil having a huge layoff, Moicano not being able to take advantage. He's got to be a stock dropper here. And I'll put Brandon Royval here as well, just because the optics, right? Brandon Royval, he had a title shot had he won. He's not going to get that title shot now. It's an interesting division right now. Maybe Royval gets a win or two and he's back in the driver's seat, but that was a tough one. And the reason I don't put Royval in the top 3 is because, I mean, that was the fight of the year, in my opinion. So I think even though he lost, Royval put on a very good effort. Royval was close to winning. Joshua Van doesn't get that sequence at the end where he knocks Royval down. That fight might have gone Royval's way. It was very close. And I think overall, I'd have to go look at it. I'll look at it tomorrow. But I believe Royval was ahead on the significant strikes. I could be wrong about that, but like he didn't fight bad. It just Van's a little bit better and showed it tonight, and he's going to be fighting for the title. And honestly, it's probably for the best. You know, it's a little bit more interesting with Van being younger, you know, on this great run right now. Royval's already fought Pantoja, so this is probably a better scenario here. And maybe we'll get Brandon Royval and Manel Kape next. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Royval's going to need to take some time off, but Royval's stock does go down ultimately because of the title shot implications, but I don't think he fought that bad. I was even a little bit hesitant to put him on here just because I think fans were pretty impressed with Brandon Royval overall. So those are some of the names that kind of came to mind here. Maybe another honorable mention, you could go Jack Hermanson. That's a pretty brutal knockout. He's getting up there in age. You know, him getting back to sort of that contender spot's going to be tough, but those are kind of the big ones for me. But let me know in the comments, guys, who your biggest 3 stock risers are, who your stock droppers are. Would love to hear from you in the comments. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. This is the Stock Report. I do this after every single UFC event. Appreciate you tuning in, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.